Hello, and welcome to Old Toy, New Joy, the show where I share with you my previously enjoyed toys I purchased from online sources, thrift stores, and collector shows that once belonged to someone else. Just last weekend, I visited a local collector's show and came across two LJN 8-inch wrestling figures that I didn't have in my collection yet. If you've seen Old Toy, New Joy before, and I hope you have, you'll know that I do collect LJN wrestling figures. I also have a Fling 'em Sling 'em wrestling ring. So please check out those episodes if you haven't already, so you can get caught up on my collection. So these two figures I didn't have before, and one in particular I've been hunting a decent price for quite a while. I've been watching Honky Tonk Man figures on eBay, trying to find something within the $40 range that was in good condition because, and I'll talk about this in a few moments, it can be difficult to find that figure in particular in decent condition because of the way he was painted and his plastic body mold coloring. And so a vendor at the collector's show had Honky Tonk Man for $40. And usually the eBay $40 versions are quite a bit worse off, and you got to pay for shipping. So I was very excited to find Honky Tonk Man and classy Freddy Blassie. Honky Tonk Man is from 1988, and Freddy Blassie is from 1986. So before we talk about the figure, let's talk about the man. Roy Wayne Ferris was born in 1953, and he's still alive. And I mention that because, unfortunately, a lot of those wrestlers from the golden age of wrestling in the 70s and 80s have passed away. Most of them didn't live past, 44 or something like that. So it is great to see those wrestlers still alive and giving interviews, which I watch on YouTube all the time. Honky Tonk Man won the Intercontinental Belt from Macho Man back in 1987, and he held it for a record 454 days before losing it to the Ultimate Warrior in 1988. And that was a very, very short match. I've talked about it before. Basically, Warrior just ran up to the ring, flew into the ring under the ropes, went back and forth a few times, clotheslining Honky Tonk, and then jumping on him and ending it with a 3 count. Honky Tonk Man was 6 foot 1 inches and weighed 243 pounds, and he was managed by the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. So let's take a look at the figure. As I mentioned, I was happy with the condition. So most LJN figures had the skin-colored plastic, and then they were painted their trunks or their shirts or their boots or whatever on top of that. There were a few figures, Honky Tonk Man included, which were either black or dark blue molded plastic, and then the paint was put over that. So usually his face, his nose, and his cheeks and his chin are showing blue because the paint is worn off, and as you can see, it has worn off a little bit on the nose, but really, that's not bad. And a little bit on the knuckles and the tips of the fingers. The boots are still white, mostly, and not a lot of scuffing on the back at all. Good shape. So that's 1988, and that's when the figures were starting to get rare. And they made fewer of them, and eventually they were only available in Canada in the last run. Honky Tonk Man. So he was kind of based on Elvis, and he did sort of twist his hips and shake his body around in the ring to make people angry. He was a heel for the most part. He did a good job of stirring up the crowd. And originally, this figure came with a guitar. If you can find the original guitar, it's usually worth more than the figure. There's also a lot of repros out there. I might get a reproduction at some point. And speaking of heels, Freddy Blassie was one of wrestling's all-time greatest heels. And his wrestling career began in the 1930s and spanned 5 decades before he became a manager, managing the likes of Hulk Hogan, Nikolai Volkov, and the Iron Sheik in the 1980s. And again, I'm not sure how many kids were playing with him in the ring because he was not a wrestler at this time, and he's not dressed like a wrestler. He is dressed like a manager. So he actually survived those decades. Like normally you'd see rope burns on his shoulder blades and on his buttocks, but his paint's in really good shape. Nice, bright, vibrant figure. Hair paint is very good. The eyebrows, the eyes, and everything. He's not missing any fingers. So I'm not sure how much he was played with. Sorry, buddy. I know that sounds sad. I wasn't criticizing. So, thank you so much for tuning in to Old Toy New Joy today and allowing me to share my newly acquired LJN wrestling figures of Honky Tonk Man and Classy Freddy Blassie. If you liked the video, please like the video, and we will keep them coming. I also encourage you to subscribe to Old Toy New Joy so that you can get caught up on the 100+ episodes that we've made to date, which feature many cool and vintage things such as Star Wars, Masters of the Universe, Redline Hot Wheels, G.I. Joe, wrestling figures, Ninja Turtles, Thundercats, Smurfs, baseball cards, hockey cards, basketball cards, comics, Transformers, and so much more. Until next time, this is your Toy Whisperer saying farewell from Old Toy New Joy.